Yeah, those are in development. In fact, we're part of a project led by that group at NASA that just got an award within the last few days to work on really developing and doing a better job testing those kinds of indicators. I mean, after Puerto Rico, that team had been experimenting with different measures, and you can do some simple things with the relatively raw data, but trying to get calibrated measures of power differences is going to take a little more work to have something that certainly the scientists can help interpret in an appropriate way. And linking that to the existing baseline population data, housing data, trying to differentiate between residential areas and non-residential and urban and rural areas. There are a lot of issues in interpreting those data. So unfortunately, it's not done now, but part of the objective of the project is to develop that kind of near real-time service. Getting a good census in the US and around the world is definitely a really important need. It provides kind of the core reference data that a whole community uses. Now, there is an emerging set of alternative sources of data that people are starting to explore. I mean, one is on the remote sensing side. We now can use radar, nighttime lights, high-resolution remote sensing, and others to do a better job of detecting settlements and down to the individual building. Linking that to population, you could start using cell phone data, internet access, traffic, and other kinds of measures. And we've been looking into it, but certainly there's some big issues about people who may not be as well connected or active internet users and so forth. So there's certainly a real danger of leaving people behind or missing people if you don't conduct a census. Certainly the transition from the decennial census to, which has been trimming the number of questions and shifting to this tool called the American Community Survey that many of you are probably familiar with, has some challenges, but obviously that's one of the ways you have to adapt and think about ways of imputing, the better data you have for some regions to other areas where you may use some of these alternative indicators to kind of guess at what's there. But that's still, an evolving science. Well, I think the data itself is useful for a range of decision making, both in disaster, long-term mitigation as well as response, if that's part of your question. I mean, in New York, as you may know, there's efforts to develop green roofs and swales that absorb water better and increase, not just the greenness, but the drainage. And so these kinds of data can certainly be useful in trying to look at where the need is high for those types of approaches that will have multiple benefits, both for, say, flood potential, but also for, just general urban environmental improvement and that sort of thing. So, yeah, these data can be useful. I'm kind of interested, certainly from the emergency management viewpoint, what would be high priority things to try to bring in, and if you did, how would they have to look to be useful for any particular decision? So, we're data providers. We're looking at the multiple uses of these kinds of data if made available in, say, near real time as services. But one question is how How often do they have to be updated? What's the resolution that would be desirable? What are the, how do you couple data of this type with, other ancillary information to make it more useful?